Chapter 1523. According to Gu Mengmeng's previous situation, she would have to sleep for at least 3 days and 3 nights after being tormented by Elvis like this. But miraculously, this time, Gu Mengmeng woke up early the next morning. When she sat up rubbing her eyes, Elvis and Leah were both stunned. I'll go prepare breakfast. Leah was only stunned for 2 seconds before he stood up and left the stone castle. After calling out to Oriton to prepare breakfast as usual, Oriton flew out to hunt while Leah immediately started a fire to boil water for cooking. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms and asked softly, "Not going to sleep a little longer?" Gu Mengmeng glared at Elvis in annoyance and said, "Now you're feeling sorry for me. Why didn't you feel sorry for me when I was begging for mercy last night? My waist was about to break. Your begging was too moving and I couldn't help but want to hear more, so..." Elvis recalled the passionate scene last night and could not help but feel restless. Gu Mengmeng saw that he was tempted and glared at him. "Stop fooling around, I'm scared of your hungry wolf pouncing on me. I'm starving after accompanying you for an entire night. If you don't give me food and do it again, I'll really die in front of you." "Alright, I won't pounce on you. I'll feed you first." Elvis suppressed the restlessness in his heart. He also knew that although Gu Mengmeng had the protection of the tear of the beast deity and love of the sky, he could not go too far. If she was really exhausted, his heart would ache too. With that, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng downstairs and left the stone castle together. They sat at the entrance to bask in the sun while waiting for breakfast. By right, Oriton was more enthusiastic than anyone else when it came to meals. If Leah was willing to cook, even if he did not prepare any prey, he would snatch it from someone else's house first. With the glory of being a member of the Wolf King and Wolf Queen's family, most of the wolf tribe would be willing to offer their prey to him and hand it over to Elvis and Gu Mengmeng. Or else, he could even catch a wild wolf guarding at the edge of the stone castle to answer an emergency. But this time, he was gone for a long time. Gu Mengmeng's stomach was growling from hunger, but this sharing partner was still not back yet. Gu Mengmeng was a little surprised. She tilted her head and asked, "Could something have happened to Oriton?" Leah and Elvis looked at each other. "This is solder, what could possibly happen?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said in confusion, "I can't say, I just feel uneasy." "Shall we go and see him?" Elvis and Lee's meaning was, it was just a dumb tiger, so be it if it was lost. What was there to find? But seeing Gu Mengmeng's worried look, they did not reject her. Leah removed the pot from the fire and placed it at the side. He dusted his hands and said, "I will go hunting and bring that glutton back." "Let's go together, I can fly and can see further." Gu Mengmeng also stood up, wanting to go together. Elvis knew that his objection was futile, so he did not insist. He just treated it as accompanying her to relax and take a stroll. Just as the 3 of them were about to search in the direction that Oriton had left in, they saw a person slowly walking towards them. In his hand was a tiger's leg. Behind him was a badly mutilated tiger, leaving a trail of blood behind him. He could vaguely see that the tiger was a white tiger. Chapter 1524. As for the person carrying Oriton, little shit? Gu Mengmeng's voice was filled with hesitation. Face, it was indeed little shit's face. But his entire aura was completely different. How should she put it? If little shit did not have a split personality, then this person must be little shit's twin brother from the same nest. Yeah. Little shit casually tossed Oriton onto the ground, not caring about his life or death. He only said, "I just happened to meet your family's tiger. I heard that it was going to hunt. I don't think it's necessary, just eat him." Leah understood Gu Mengmeng too well. If Oriton had died outside today, perhaps Gu Mengmeng would be upset for 2 days and forget about it. At most, he and Elvis would find the person who killed Oriton and avenge him. That would be the end of it. But now that Oriton had been brought back, Oriton must not die. Otherwise, it would become another knot in Gu Mengmeng's heart, especially since Gregory's incident had just happened not too long ago. So without waiting for Gu Mengmeng's instructions, Leah carried Oriton up from the ground. After a simple check, he gave Gu Mengmeng a reassuring smile. Don't worry, he won't die. Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief. Her worried heart also calmed down. She walked up to Wabiai and sized him up carefully. She asked uncertainly, Are you, really little shit? Yeah. Wabiai glanced sideways at Gu Mengmeng and responded with a single syllable, appearing rather aloof. Gu Mengmeng frowned. His face was indeed Wabiai's, but there was something wrong with his entire body. How should she put it? In the past, Gu Mengmeng had called Wabiai little shit because the two of them had a good relationship and would play around without restraint. But it was also because Wabiai exuded a hopeless aura of a chunibu, so Gu Mengmeng deliberately called him little shit. In the past, he would explode whenever she called him that. The more he exploded, the more Gu Mengmeng liked to tease him. As time passed, she could not change her way of addressing him. But this person before her, the aura he exuded could really freeze someone to death. If one person had to be compared, it would probably be Snake on the eve of his rage who had this kind of pressure. But there was still a slight difference between the two of them, because Snake would only emit a chilling aura when he was extremely angry, while this little shit in front of him was not angry but was intimidating. Even though he was clearly calm, no one dared to underestimate him. Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and sniffed Wabiai. The appearance was similar, but the taste couldn't be exactly the same. Wabiai seemed to understand what Gu Mengmeng was trying to confirm. He neither resisted nor cooperated. He just looked like he couldn't be bothered with her and allowed her to carefully confirm his scent. Gu Mengmeng sniffed carefully and exchanged glances with Elvis to confirm that the person before her was really Wabiai. Even if Gu Mengmeng's nose was not accurate, as a beast king and a wolf, Elvis would definitely not be mistaken. After all, apart from Gu Mengmeng and Leah, Wabiai was the one who had been by his side for the longest time. There was no way he would mistake that familiar scent. This person was the real Wabiai. But Gu Mengmeng felt as if the core had changed. Wabiai, where have you been these past few days? I didn't see you when I returned from the Moda Mountains. I was quite worried. Gu Mengmeng did not know why she could not call out, little shit, to the person in front of her. Chapter 1525. I went to retrieve some things stored elsewhere. Wabiai's concise reply made Gu Mengmeng's heart turn colder. The person before her was not the little shit she knew. Even if they had the same body, they were definitely different on the inside. If it was little shit, he would have started bragging to her about his achievements on the Moda Mountains, pointing at her nose and asking her to kneel down and sing Conquer. And not like now, with a dignified explanation that stopped Gu Mengmeng from asking any further. It seemed like he had explained, but in actual fact, he did not say anything. Instead, he gave off a feeling of, what does it have to do with you? This feeling made Gu Mengmeng feel like she had no right to continue asking. Little shit was her friend and a very sincere one. He would never treat her like this. Either something serious had happened on the Moda Mountains and she did not know about it, or this person before her was not little shit. Gu Mengmeng's imagination was running wild. She even started to suspect if little shit had died on the Moda Mountains and someone else's soul had transmigrated over to take over his body. But that did not seem right. Because if that was the case, how did little shit find her? And how did he know that Oriton was her family's tiger? Pursing her lips, Gu Mengmeng did not continue asking Wabiai about what happened on the Moda Mountains. She knew he would not say it and she did not want to push him too hard and make things awkward. So she could only change the topic. Then did you see who injured Oriton so badly just now? Normally, with Oriton's status as Gu Mengmeng's guardian beast, the people in the beast world would have to give him some face. This was Sauter and half of the forces here were from the Wolf clan. No matter who it was that beat Oriton up, the Wolf clan would not just stand by and watch. After all, beating up a male from the Wolf King family was the same as slapping Elvis in the face. The Wolf clan would definitely not tolerate it. But the truth was right before their eyes. Oriton had been beaten half to death. Wabiai glanced at Gu Mengmeng from the corner of his eye. His expression was calm, but it was as if he was looking at an idiot. He breathed in speechlessly and said, Cole. Gu Mengmeng's mind exploded. wasn't it Cole? Besides him, who else would dare to do that? Gu Mengmeng stood up and wanted to settle the score with Cole. Elvis understood Gu Mengmeng's temper and did not stop her. He just carried her up and brought her along. The males of the Wolf King's family were beaten up. If he didn't beat them back, the Wolf King wouldn't be able to live in the future. But before they could take 2 steps, Wabi-ai asked lazily, "Are you sure you want to go now?" Gu Mengmeng and Elvis paused and turned to look at Wabi-ai. Wabi-ai looked up at Gu Mengmeng and said calmly, "Don't you feel anything different about yourself?" Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and scrutinized herself. She didn't find anything different, so she shook her head slowly and turned to look at Elvis. Elvis stared at Gu Mengmeng for a long time, as if there was something different about her, but he couldn't recall it at that moment. So the two of them turned to look at Wabi-ai. Wabi-ai pointed at the back of his neck, then looked at Gu Mengmeng with a faint smile. Gu Mengmeng turned around and showed the back of her neck to Elvis. "Look, is the mark on the back of my neck still there?" Elvis took a look and nodded. "It's still there. Is there anything different?" Gu Mengmeng asked again. Elvis replied, No. I can't tell." Digression. Chapter 1526. Wabi-ai snorted, as if he couldn't stand Gu Mengmeng and Elvis acting like idiots in front of him. He walked in front of Gu Mengmeng and smiled coldly, before reaching out to strangle Elvis's neck. Gu Mengmeng jumped in fright and hurriedly said, "Little shit, what are you doing? Quickly let go." Wabi-ai maintained his faint smile as he tightened his grip on Gu Mengmeng. Elvis's muscles tensed up. He was afraid of hurting Gu Mengmeng in his arms, so he first put her down, before saying with much difficulty, "Step back." Gu Mengmeng didn't understand why Wabi-ai suddenly attacked Elvis, but she knew Elvis had the powers of a beast king. In such a situation, it was best for her to step back so that Elvis could easily retaliate without worrying about her. Gu Mengmeng followed his instructions and took a few steps back. Elvis grabbed Wabi-ai's hand in an attempt to break free, but it was clearly to no avail. Elvis raised a leg to kick Wabi-ai's chest, but Wabi-ai didn't budge at all. This was not right. Wabi-ai was a 5th-level beast, while Elvis was a beast king. The current situation, Wabi-ai didn't care about Elvis's attack at all. He just turned to look at Gu Mengmeng and said, "Don't you intend to try your fury of the beast king?" Gu Mengmeng instinctively clutched the back of her neck. She saw that Elvis's face had already turned purple. Wabi-ai was really going to kill him. Gritting her teeth, Gu Mengmeng said, "Wabi-ai, let go." But Wabi-ai only laughed coldly. Not only did he not loosen his grip, he turned Elvis around and walked step by step towards Gu Mengmeng. Until he was 1 step away from Gu Mengmeng, he loosened his fingers and the unconscious Elvis fell to the ground with a thud. Wabi-ai's eyes widened. "Do you understand now?" Wabi-ai asked softly. Gu Mengmeng frowned and shook her head. She remembered that when she had just retrieved the soul of the forest, she had unintentionally shouted at Wabi-ai and he had been pinned to the ground by the Snake King's suppressive force. After that, she didn't dare to shout at Wabi-ai in front of him, afraid that he would be hurt by her unintentionally. But today, Gu Mengmeng touched the back of her neck and said tentatively, "The mark on my neck has changed again? It has degenerated into Snake's guardian mark and is no longer the family mark of the Snake tribe, right? Not too stupid." Wabi-ai raised his brows in approval. Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis was a wolf and could not tell the difference between snakes, so he did not know the change in the mark on the back of her neck. But Wabi-ai was a snake. In his eyes, this change was very clear. With her hands hanging by her sides, Gu Mengmeng felt empty in her heart. Some things really couldn't be solved by running away. No matter how much she wanted to pretend that she didn't find out, she couldn't continue lying to herself forever. This was not the first time Wabi-ai and Elvis had fought. Before they went to the Mecca Desert, they almost killed each other. But a near miss was a near miss. Although their fighting style was ruthless, it did not carry killing intent. But just now, Wabi-ai's expression was clearly that of, "It doesn't matter even if I kill him." Gu Mengmeng had always known that snakes were cold by nature. However, because little shit cared about her, he also took care of the people around her. She would do this to Elvis, not her little shit. Looking up, Gu Mengmeng gazed at Wabi quietly. You are not my little shit, and should not be Wabi either. Who exactly are you? Chapter 1527. Wabi smiled with a hint of playfulness. Although I don't like this title, I am indeed little shit and also Wabi, but I guess you are asking about my other identity, the identity I just retrieved from the Moda Mountains. You are. Gu Mengmeng's eyes widened as she blurted out a name in disbelief. Whales? Wabi raised his brows and nodded with a chuckle. You resurrected? Gu Mengmeng's face was filled with shock. This news was too shocking to her. Although Gregory had told her that whales would resurrect and the beast deity had also said so. Even she had been constantly hypnotizing herself to tell herself that he would really resurrect. But when this person who had been dead for 1,000 years appeared in front of her, Gu Mengmeng still felt a huge impact. Wabi seemed to be seriously considering Gu Mengmeng's question. After thinking for a while, he laughed coldly. Looking at my current state, I don't think I have resurrected. At most, I have woken up. Gu Mengmeng frowned with an urgent expression. She asked worriedly, then what about little shit? Is it that once you're completely resurrected, little shit will disappear forever? Wabi, oh, no, maybe from now on, she had to call him Whales. Whales bent forward to look at Gu Mengmeng's eyes. He probed the confusion in her gaze and asked, Wabi is me when I was in deep sleep. I am the Wabi after I woke up. I remember everything that happened during my deep sleep clearly, so I don't think I disappeared. But there is one thing I feel I should warn you about. Don't treat me like that fool who always revolves around you. That kind of foolish way of living is not my style. And those little things around you better not jump around in front of me again. Otherwise, I may not be so patient to talk nonsense with you next time. As Whales spoke, he looked coldly at Elvis who was lying on the ground. Since that's the case, why did you come back? Gu Mengmeng took a step forward and stared straight into Whales' eyes. You, not only do you have little shit's memories, you also have little shit's feelings, right? Little shit was worried about me and was afraid that I would worry if he suddenly disappeared. So you came back to see me to let me know that you are safe, right? Whales didn't deny it and just smiled. You have such a rich imagination. It would be a pity not to be a scriptwriter. Heh, I haven't heard such sarcastic words in the last 4 years, right? It seemed that this was the real Whales. After all, only he, Wang Xiaoxin's partner, would know about the future profession of screenwriter. Then tell me, why did you come back? Gu Mengmeng did not give up. Whales' gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng's face and he said honestly, you are the key to my revival. If I want to see her again, I have to protect you and ensure that you are safe and sound. I have to successfully gather the 7 treasures. Whales' gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng's face. That's all? Gu Mengmeng did not believe him. Whales said lazily, don't you have her psychological knowledge? It should be easy for you to discern the true from the false, right? In other words, it was up to you to guess whether it was true or not. Gu Mengmeng's body stiffened, as if someone had sucked all the energy out of her. Whales might have little shit's memories, but he really did not have little shit's feelings. If it was little shit, he would definitely not talk to her like this. Chapter 1528. Leah came out of the stone castle after tending to Oraton's injuries. He had heard the entire conversation between Whales and Gu Mengmeng, so he didn't say much. He just helped Gu Mengmeng move Elvis to a shady place. Don't worry, it's fine. Elvis will wake up soon. By then, we will go with you to settle the score with Cole and help Oraton vent his anger, all right? Gu Mengmeng nodded, her face blushing. Leah rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head. Since Wabi is Whales and this is his original appearance, as friends, we can only accept it, right? Moreover, his safety is the most important thing. Gu Mengmeng leaned her head against Lee's chest. I know, I understand the logic, but I just feel very uncomfortable seeing little shit like this. It's as if I've already lost him. Leah chuckled and tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose. You are the one who can't see the situation clearly. Huh? Gu Mengmeng didn't understand. Leah said, what did he say just now? You are the key to his revival, so he has to protect you and ensure your safety. These words, even if you want to deceive those two little wolf cubs, Jiaoyu or Qi Xian, they won't believe you. Gu Mengmeng was at a loss. She looked at Leah quietly with faint anticipation, waiting for him to continue. Leah continued explaining. If he doesn't appear, there will be 3 beast kings in the beast world, you, Elvis and Cole. If the 3 of you really fight with your lives on the line, your skills will be evenly matched. But Elvis will protect you no matter what. Cole is no match for the 2 of you, especially now that you have wings and can fly. It's impossible for Cole to hurt you. So, even if he doesn't protect you, you will still be safe. But he still came back just because he is worried about you. If he only has Wabiai's memories and not his feelings, why would he do this? Gu Mengmeng said, but just now, don't forget, he's Wang Xiaoxin's partner. He's been by Wang Xiaoxin's side for many years. He definitely knows as much about psychology as you do. Leah smiled and continued, moreover, even if what he said was true and he only came back to help you successfully obtain the 7 treasures, wouldn't it be better if he didn't show himself? After all, it was the most advantageous situation for the enemy to be out in the open while they were in the dark. Hiding themselves, catching the enemy off guard, and dealing a fatal blow was the usual method of snakes. But he appeared so openly. Tell me, why do you think so? The smile on Gu Mengmeng's face gradually spread and her gaze brightened up. He was afraid that I would be worried about little shit, so he came back to tell me that he was safe and sound and that there was no need to worry. Leah nodded. You sound so cold and heartless, but didn't you still bring Oriton back? Snakes are cold-blooded by nature and are never a race that likes to meddle in other people's business. If it weren't for you, he wouldn't have even looked at Oriton. At this thought, Gu Mengmeng suddenly smiled. Chapter 1529. Seeing that the knot in Gu Mengmeng's heart had been untied, Leah also smiled. They didn't notice that at the corner of the 2nd floor, the snake stuck out its tongue, turned its head, and threw down a faint sentence, self-righteous. However, the corners of its lips were filled with a smile, and its eyes were filled with a different kind of gentleness. Elvis didn't sleep for long. About half an hour later, he slowly opened his eyes. He held his forehead and shook his head to wake himself up. Then, he fixed his gaze on Gu Mengmeng and asked worriedly, Are you all right? Gu Mengmeng smiled and shook her head. I'm fine, he won't hurt me. Elvis was still skeptical. Leah then told Elvis about his analysis with Gu Mengmeng. Although Elvis didn't quite understand what a tsundra was, but since Leah and Gu Mengmeng had agreed on something, it would not be wrong. So, he didn't dwell on it any further. It was common for males to fight and kill each other. Elvis also wouldn't bear a grudge against Wabiai for choking him unconscious. At most, he would just choke him back next time. But there was no need to wait for Cole to beat Oriton up. This time, he had to return the favor. Elvis stretched his muscles and realized that he didn't feel any discomfort. So, he carried Gu Mengmeng and brought Leah to where the Fox clan lived. But when they reached the borders of the territory, they realized that the Fox clan was already in a mess. Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. She thought to herself, could it be that the other members of the wolf clan had already come to cause trouble? Scanning the area, she didn't see any wolf clan members. Leah casually grabbed a fox who was rushing off somewhere and asked, What's going on? Ninth Highness, this. That fox knew that Leah and Cole were not on the same side. Although the wolf clan and fox clan both lived in Sauter, they were on opposing sides. So, he shut his mouth and looked at Elvis with a troubled expression. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands. Forget it if you don't want to say. Let's go and see for ourselves. Leah shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly and let go of her. But that fox did not leave. Instead, he stretched out his arm and blocked their path. He stuttered, "It's not convenient for the mighty Fox King to meet guests now, you guys, please go back." Gu Mengmeng found it funny that he was not afraid of death. Holding her chin, she looked at the little fox in front of her and said, "Do you think you can stop me? Lord Emissary, please don't make things difficult for me. Fox King, it's really not convenient for him to see guests." The little fox was shivering, clearly afraid. Gu Mengmeng smiled scornfully and said, "Don't tell me it's inconvenient, because you know I'm here. When you're Wusong, it seems quite convenient." Leah flashed his claws and smiled faintly. "Are you going to scram or do you want me to do it? This is the territory of the Fox clan, you can't, I'm also a fox." Leah narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. "I'm from the same clan as your Fox King. We're siblings." With that, Leah waved his claws and that little fox was flung to the side. The foxes, who were already in a mess, all walked forward to form a meat wall to block the way. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. She did not understand what Cole was trying to do. The strongest among these foxes was only 3rd level. Not to mention herself and Elvis, these 2 beast kings, even Leah and the rest could not stop them. This was basically sending them to their deaths. Chapter 1530. Great Messenger. Arnold stood out from the crowd and cupped his fists. The Fox King is seriously injured and unconscious. It is not convenient for him to meet any guests. Great Messenger, please forgive us and don't make things difficult for us. Seriously injured? Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes. She didn't think the 3rd level Oriton could injure Cole so badly. Arnold nodded. Yes, the Great Messenger's friend, Wabi, attacked the Fox King. Little shit? Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a second before she smiled. Little shit said he didn't care about her, but his body was still very honest. Without a doubt, little shit must have conveniently attacked Cole when he was saving Oriton. Even if Oriton wasn't Gu Mengmeng's male, he was still her family's tiger. He wouldn't let an outsider like Cole bully him. Little shit was standing up for her. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said to Arnold, "All right, I understand. Since it is not convenient for the Fox King, we shall not disturb you any further." With that, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and left. Sighs of relief could be heard behind them. It was obvious that they had been frightened out of their wits. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng with a smile. "Am I right? If it was just whales and not little shit, would he care about this?" "He wouldn't." Gu Mengmeng smiled brightly. She shot Leah a look. "To celebrate little shit's safe return, let's have an extra dish tonight. While we're at it, ha ha ha." Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng's mischievous smile and knew what she was thinking. The grapes sent by Canwood this year were made into wine by Sandy and her men. I checked them after I came back. They weren't as detailed as yours, but the taste was about the same. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little nose. "But you have experienced Wabi's alcohol tolerance. Aren't you afraid he will drink all your wine again?" Gu Mengmeng raised her head. "As long as I can drink little shit back, what's a few barrels of wine?" Gu Mengmeng was in a great mood. She hummed a tune all the way back to the stone castle. Wabi had never been one to scheme. If someone provoked him, he would usually choose to fight back. It was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge 10 years later, but that did not apply to him. Looking at Oriton being beaten up so badly, he would either not care or even care. Cole would definitely be 10 times more miserable than Oriton. "Ah, it's a pity that I didn't see him like this." Gu Mengmeng was stunned when she pushed open the door and entered the stone castle. Little shit, this was definitely kissing little shit. "My wine." Gu Mengmeng shouted at the top of her lungs, "Didn't you say to rest on the 2nd floor? Why did you drink all my wine as soon as you came back?" That's right, Gu Mengmeng had intended to take out the grape wine to serve little shit. But serving was one thing, and it was another to find a drunken snake coiled up in the stone castle like Niwa with a wine barrel in its tail. It was half leaning on the stone castle while winking at Gu Mengmeng with a drunken and enchanting smile. Burp, little shit seemed to be in a good mood after drinking. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had returned, he walked towards Gu Mengmeng in an S shape. He pushed Elvis away and hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms. He whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ear, "I am your father." Really? Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. How could he act in a sequel after drinking himself into a coma? Chapter 1531. You don't believe me? Wales seemed unhappy. He raised his upper body and lifted Gu Mengmeng by the collar, lifting her feet off the ground, as if he was grabbing a little chick. He shook her for a while and watched Gu Mengmeng swinging around his hand like a pendulum. He chuckled and said mysteriously, "Look, you have Snake's mark on the back of your neck, right? I heard he's dating you over there. According to that fellow's character, you won't be able to run away and you'll definitely have to marry him. I'm his father. Am I also your father?" Gu Mengmeng followed Whale's words and thought, it seemed to be the case. Looking at the development of Snake and Gu Mengmeng in the dream world, there was probably no other possibility for her. But, how should she put it? Although they had the same face, the same name and even the same past experiences and memories, the Gu Mengmeng in that space was not herself. So Gu Mengmeng still felt that she could not recognize this father. "Sometimes, I really feel that your little mouth, haha, tell me, is it because your mouth is straight or is it because of fate? You wanted me to lie to Cole and say that the reason I'm not afraid of you anymore is because I mated with Wang Xiaoxin. Ha, didn't I mate with her? If not, where did Snake come from? But, I can't find her." With that, little shit let go of his hand and Gu Mengmeng fell vertically. Elvis quickly caught hold of Gu Mengmeng. He frowned and looked at Wales unhappily. Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulder and shook her head, saying, "He has been holding it in for thousands of years. It's good to let him get drunk and vent his frustrations." Elvis did not say anything and just quietly placed Gu Mengmeng on the ground. Then, he sighed and quietly stood a step away from Gu Mengmeng, so that he could protect her when Wales went crazy again. Leah hugged Elvis's shoulder and said, "Put yourself in my shoes. If Gu Mengmeng insists on leaving through the doors of time and space tomorrow, would you stop her?" "Stop me?" Elvis gritted his teeth. "Leah, what if you can't stop her?" Elvis frowned and said, "Follow." Lee's smile widened and he asked again, "What if she doesn't?" Elvis's brows furrowed into a dead knot, but his voice turned cold as he said calmly, "Die." Leah nodded in agreement. "Both of us have the same thoughts." Wales was the same back then. But you know what happened in the end. That woman tore off the scales protecting his heart and dug out his heart. Elvis felt a tug in his heart as he felt a strange sense of empathy. He loved Gu Mengmeng and was willing to die for her. He was not afraid of death, but if the reason she wanted him to die was to leave, the so-called heart-wrenching and bone-biting was nothing more than this. Looking at Wales' wavering drunken state, Elvis suddenly felt a sense of empathy. He turned to look at Leah and smiled. "We are different from him. Xiao Meng is still soft-hearted." Leah nodded in agreement. "That's right. Our luck lies in the fact that Mengmeng's world doesn't have any worries that Mengmeng can't let go of, and that Mengmeng can't bear to see us. Therefore, although he is powerful, he is just a pitiful person." Chapter 1532. Leah was taken aback and instinctively looked at Gu Mengmeng. Standing behind Wales, Gu Mengmeng also tilted her head and pointed at her own nose, saying, "I told him." Wales turned back with a sharp gaze, scaring Gu Mengmeng so much that she shrank her neck. He did not ask anything and Gu Mengmeng confessed herself, saying honestly, "The beast deity told me." Gu Mengmeng repeated the version of the story that the beast deity told her about Wang Xiaoxin and Wales, word for word. Then, she looked at Wales quietly for a while before asking, "What's wrong? Did the beast deity say something wrong?" Wales seemed to have sunk into deep thought. She did not know if it was because the alcohol had gotten to his head and caused him to be slow or his thoughts had flown elsewhere. Anyway, he was just dazed for a long time before he suddenly laughed, a very joyful kind of laughter. He held Gu Mengmeng's shoulders with both hands, his eyes shimmering with tears as he asked word by word, "The beast deity really said that she was waiting for me?" Gu Mengmeng nodded blankly, saying, "What's wrong?" Things between the two of you are not like this? Wales slowly closed his eyes as tears flowed down from the corners of his eyes. His lips were still curled up with a smile that made one's heart ache for him. Little shit, are you alright? Gu Mengmeng's heart ached for Wales as she looked at him. Wales nodded and said, I'm fine, I can't be any better. Knowing that she is waiting for me, I did not waste these 1,000 years. Come, Gu Mengmeng, have a drink with me. This word me made Gu Mengmeng feel at ease all of a sudden. Regardless of whether he was called Wabi or Wales, he was still her little shit. Just like what Leah had said, if Wales was Wabi's true form, then she should accept him. Although he was not as cute as Wabi and was so arrogant and awkward, no matter what, as long as he was little shit, he was still her friend. Ah, crossing 1,000 years and becoming friends with the husband of the previous messenger of the beast deity, Snake's father, this could really be considered as forgetting the difference in age. Gu Mengmeng raised her wine glass and clinked it with Wales without a word, saying, a toast to you, to congratulate you on your return. Cheers. Wales didn't stand on ceremony either. He downed the cup of wine without leaving a single drop behind. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to say that wine was not sorghum liquor, it was really not the way to drink it. But little shit's current state. Forget it, as long as he's happy drinking, why bother with the method of wine tasting? Being carefree was the most important thing. Wales hugged Gu Mengmeng's neck and said in a brotherly manner, Gu Tu Meng, help me do something. In the future, I will help you even if I have to go through mountains of daggers and seas of fire, alright? Gu Mengmeng smiled. This Wales acted so cold when he came back, but after a few barrels of wine, his little shit nature was revealed. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have worried about him in the morning. She should have just fed him 2 buckets and see if he would still be so arrogant. However, as long as little shit could come back, she would not be angry at him. After all, when she first inherited Snake's memories, her personality changed for a long time. Little shit had only been awkward for half a day, so he could be forgiven. So Gu Mengmeng raised her head and said in a very righteous manner, what's our relationship? Was there even a need to talk about this? Tell me, what do you want me to do? Little shit chuckled and said, to seduce Cole. Chapter 1533. Wales waved his hands carelessly and said, who asked you to really sleep with him? TSK, so stupid, how can I push my own daughter-in-law onto another male's bed? Do you think I am a fool? Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt speechless. Her relationship with Snake was very subtle, but she really did not seem to be worthy of being called daughter-in-law by Wales. I just want you to plot against Cole once, to make him fall in love with you wholeheartedly, because only then can his heart be used. Wales smiled in a drunken haze, with the unique craftiness and malevolence of the Snake tribe. With a face full of schemes, he said, do you know where the spirit of the rocky cliffs is? Gu Mengmeng shook her head, but she had a question in her mind. Could it be that the spirit of the rocky cliffs was related to Cole? Wales seemed to have seen through Gu Mengmeng's thoughts, so he smiled and nodded his head, saying, the spirit of the rocky cliffs is a derivative of the soul of the forest. For a tree to grow, it needs to absorb nutrients, and Cole is that nutrient now. Gu Mengmeng looked at Wales in confusion. Wales let out a drunken burp, but didn't say anything. He only stretched out a finger and pointed at the air, saying, the soul of the forest originally had 2 leaves, one on the left and one on the right. Both of them can save lives. They can grow flesh from bones and bring the dead back to life. Yes, that's it. But, actually, it still has a 3rd leaf. Only when this 3rd leaf grows out and fully unfurls, will the spirit of the rocky cliffs appear. As Wales spoke, he swayed to Gu Mengmeng and placed both his hands on her shoulders. He tried to make his gaze look serious, but Gu Mengmeng only saw his drunken expression. This first leaf is called benevolence, the second is called kindness, the third is called love. So, if you want the spirit of the rocky cliffs to appear, you have to make Cole fall in love with you, love you so much that he is willing to die for you. Only then will the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest unfurl. With that, Whales let go of Gu Mengmeng's hand and stared straight at his palm. Only when you gather all 7 treasures, can I be truly revived, and then I can see her. 1,000 years, I have wasted a whole 1,000 years. Whales let go of Gu Mengmeng's hand and stared straight at his palm. Gu Mengmeng puffed up her cheeks and thought for a long while before shaking her head. I don't understand. Why must Cole fall in love with me before the 3rd leaf will bloom? Because you won't love him. Whales seemed to have thought of a particularly funny thing. His eyes were filled with an amused smile as he said, do you know what is the most painful torture in this world? Gu Mengmeng replied, parting forever. Gu Mengmeng had experienced these 4 words from Snake and again from Gregory. It could be said that she was deeply moved by them. Whales shook his head and said, parting in life and death is a sad thing. The so-called sad thing is that although it is difficult, it will pass. Just like me, I have been suffering for 1,000 years, but when I think about how I can return to her side soon, I feel that this 1,000 years of suffering is just an instant. Whales paused before looking at Gu Mengmeng. When Snake died, you must have been in great pain, but has that pain faded to the point that you can't even remember it? So, the most torturous thing in this world is not parting forever. Because although it is painful, it will eventually be forgotten and it will slowly get better. Chapter 1534. Whales laughed coldly and said, you can't get what you want. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and did not understand what he meant. Whales said, as long as Cole falls in love with you and you don't love him, this torture will stimulate the growth of the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest. The more painful he is, the faster the leaf will grow. When the 3rd leaf fully blooms, his heart, which is used as nourishment, will be sucked dry and become as hard as a rock, becoming the spirit of the rocky cliffs. Gu Mengmeng frowned and her heart was filled with lingering fear. Not because of anything else, but because the soul of the forest had been placed on Qishuan's body from the start. Gu Mengmeng's brows were tightly knitted together. She had always thought that the 7 treasures were all life-saving items and did not expect the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest, which represented life force, to be such a deadly thing. Then when Cole placed the soul of the forest into Qishuan's body, did he know the truth or was it an accident? If he knew, why did he then place the soul of the forest into his body? If he did not know, impossible. Cole's understanding of the 7 treasures was far above Gu Mengmeng's. He could not have placed the soul of the forest into Qishuan's body without knowing anything. So, Cole must be plotting something. Is there any way to let the 3rd leaf bloom and obtain the spirit of the rocky cliffs without the person who is used as nourishment to die? Gu Mengmeng asked. Whales nodded and answered honestly, yes, if you truly fall in love with him, cut out half of your heart and give it to him, he will not have to die. After Whales finished speaking, he laughed and looked at Gu Mengmeng, asking, do you know? If you fall in love with Cole, cut out your heart to continue his life. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, no. Whales nodded approvingly and said, so, Cole is dead for sure. Gu Mengmeng was not as optimistic as Whales. She could not understand Cole's motive for doing this. She did not believe that someone like Cole would risk his life for no reason. Could it be that Cole was so naive to think that Gu Mengmeng would cut out her heart to save him? Yes, because Qishuan's life was tied to his. Gu Mengmeng might really cut out half of her heart to give it to Cole for her son. But the problem was that there was an important prerequisite for such a life extension. She had to truly fall in love with him. This is even harder than cutting out the heart. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, I feel that Cole should know the secret of the 3rd leaf of the soul of the forest, and he knows very well how much I want him to die. Under such circumstances, it is impossible for him to fall in love with me and allow the 3rd leaf to grow. Whales shook his head and said mysteriously, do you know why he hit Oriton? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Whales shrugged his shoulders and chuckled, because he was eavesdropping outside yesterday. He heard the sounds of you and Elvis mating, so he was angry, jealous, and went crazy. He didn't dare to be impudent in front of you, so he vented his anger on Oriton, who was alone. Whales nodded his head seriously, indicating that what he said was the truth. Then, he said softly, let me tell you another secret. When I hit him, the snake's tail was stuck into his chest. The third leaf had already sprouted a bud, so I only crippled him and didn't kill him. Gu Mengmeng stared at Wales, dumbfounded. Wales nodded his head seriously, indicating that what he said was true. You mean? Gu Mengmeng felt as if she had swallowed a fly. Wales nodded and said, Cole loves you. He loves you so much that he is twisted, so ferocious, so much that he can't see the light of day, but he really fell in love with you. Digression. Chapter 1535. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. She loathed Cole and even hated him. Every time he used Qi Xian to threaten her, her hatred and disgust towards him would increase. She wished she could skin him alive and break his bones. But she still felt repulsed by using emotions to feign civility. Yes, it was undeniable that Wales was right. To the males in the beast world, not getting what you want was the most heart-wrenching thing. But this situation was really despicable and Gu Mengmeng did not want to involve herself in it. Wales stared at Gu Mengmeng for a long time and understood the repulsion in her eyes. He took 2 steps back and said, Now we have 6 out of the 7 treasures, we only lack the spirit of the rocky cliffs. Gu Mengmeng. I beg of you. As long as you help me this time, I, Wales, will owe you for the rest of my life. Gu Mengmeng knew about Wales and Wang Xiaoxin's relationship. It would be an exaggeration to say that she could empathize with him. You would never know how painful it was until you were stabbed. When the beast deity first told her this story, she already felt that Wales was very pitiful. After knowing that Wales was little shit, this feeling was magnified by many times. Little shit was an important friend of hers. She could not bear to see him go through a love crisis and return after narrowly escaping death, only to repeat the same mistake and fail on the verge of success. She could not bear to see him fail on the verge of success. But, is there no other way to get the spirit of the rocky cliffs? Gu Mengmeng asked. Wales shook his head with a bitter smile and said, If the second leaf of the soul of the forest has not bloomed, then we just need to change the provider. For example, the birdman on the Moda Mountains is very suitable. Unfortunately, the second leaf has already bloomed and the soul of the forest has already fused with Cole. There is no way to retrieve it. Gu Mengmeng, you need to be moral towards good people. Why can't you do it to Cole? I know you don't like to make use of other people's love. Wales looked at Gu Mengmeng with pleading eyes. He said word by word, But you have not done anything up till now. Isn't he still using his filthy thoughts to love you? Let me tell you, I am too familiar with the way Cole looks at you. I have seen this look countless times 1,000 years ago. It is a crazy obsession, a twisted possessiveness and a sick desire. Even if you don't do anything, he won't let you go. Oriton was just the beginning. He had used harming the people around you to warn you not to disobey him and not to anger him. What about next time? Who could it be? Huda and his brothers? Sandy? 16 golden hairpins? Or Leah, Elvis, or anyone else who can coerce you? Wales held on to Gu Mengmeng's shoulders with both hands and stared into her eyes. He said solemnly, If you want to protect the people around you from harm, the best way is to strike first. Give him the illusion that there is hope between you and him. In order to maintain this hope, he will not dare to act rashly and hurt the people around you. What you have to do is not to take the initiative, not to refuse, and not to take responsibility. When his hopes climbed to the peak, you could crush his hopes ruthlessly. As long as you were ruthless enough, the third leaf would definitely bloom. At that time, I can be with her again, and you can get rid of him completely. Other than Cole, no one will be hurt. And Cole only has himself to blame. Chapter 1536. She could not tell if it was because the purity of Sandy's wine was too low, or because Wales had the previous experience of drinking too much, so he could drink more than before. This time, he drank almost all the wine by himself, but he did not act crazily like the previous time. He just became more talkative, and his emotions became more agitated. Gu Mengmeng returned to her room and lay in between Elvis and Leah. Her two large tails covered her body, and she rubbed them from time to time. She stared straight at the ceiling, thinking about Whale's words. Leah and Elvis both knew what she was upset about, but Elvis was not good with words, so he did not say anything. He just gave Leah a look, indicating for him to comfort Gu Mengmeng. No matter what her decision was, they would support her. It was just that their hearts ached for her to be so upset. Leah gently tidied the stray hair on Gu Mengmeng's forehead. He said gently, Mengmeng, actually, Elvis and I do not support this honey trap. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah, waiting for him to continue. Leah smiled. In the beast world, any problem should be solved by the males. Let's not talk about the fact that we at least have Elvis who can fight Cole to a draw. Even without the Beast King, the two of us should be the ones trying our best to mediate with Cole. There is no reason to push you out. Gu Mengmeng turned sideways and hugged Leah. She buried her face in his chest and said softly, I don't mind this. Leah patted Gu Mengmeng's back gently. I know you don't mind, but Elvis and I are also very embarrassed to always hide behind a female. But now is not the time to care about our pride. Of course, I can set up a trap for Elvis to kill Cole, and you don't even have to dirty your hands. But if the 7 treasures don't appear and Cole dies, then Qi Xian will definitely be buried with him. You can't bear to let Qi Xian go, and that is why we are holding back. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and nodded. I know, if I can be heartless and not care about Qi Xuan's life, you and Elvis will not have to be held back by him. But I really can't bear to sacrifice 2,000 to kill 1,000 enemies in the beast world. As long as I can achieve my goal, I will not care about the cost. Qi Xian is my flesh and blood. I can't bear to part with him. Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and said, we know you can't bear to and we won't do anything that will make you sad. Hence, Whale's suggestion seemed to be the only beneficial solution for now. Only then can the 7 treasures appear. Not only can it protect Qi Xian, but it can also stop Cole's crazy idea. Whales can completely revive Gu and Gregory can also return. At the same time, it can also fulfill the 1,000-year relationship between Whales and Wang Xiaoxin. It can be said that there are many advantages and no disadvantages. Leah sighed and gave a self-mocking smile as he hugged Gu Mengmeng even tighter. He said, we all understand the logic, but I can no longer analyze everything clearly like I did 4 years ago and use logic to make the best choice. Mengmeng, I can't bear to see you suffer, not even a little bit. So if you don't want to do it, then don't. In any case, I'll be happy if that door never opens. Otherwise, I'll always feel uneasy. I'm afraid that if you walk through that door, I won't be able to find you again. Chapter 1537. Leah laid out the pros and cons for her to hear, but did not make the decision for her. Leah was telling her that no matter what her final decision was, he and Elvis would support her unconditionally, and would help her deal with the aftermath as usual. So, she could do whatever she thought she should do. That night, Gu Mengmeng tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Luckily, Gu Mengmeng's body had 2 of the 7 treasures supporting her, so she was not too tired after a night of not sleeping. But the next morning, a commotion came from the stone castle's entrance, causing Gu Mengmeng to frown. These days, there were really not many who dared to behave atrociously at her doorstep. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng down from the 2nd floor and saw a wild wolf and a wild fox tearing at each other at the stone castle's entrance. The scene was bloody, violent and strange. It was as if a Samoyed and a husky had both contracted rabies and were biting each other to death. But the wild wolf and the wild fox's battle was much more violent, and the scene was even more chaotic. Fox King is so imposing. Did you come to my doorstep to bully me? Gu Mengmeng's lukewarm words successfully stopped the battle. The wolf and the fox bared their fangs to intimidate each other, and slowly retreated to the sides under the orders of their respective kings. Cole's face was pale, and even though the wounds on his body had mostly healed, he still looked miserable. It was obvious that little shit had not been merciful yesterday. If not for the fact that the soul of the forest had a 3rd leaf on his chest, little shit would have killed Cole in a moment of hot-headedness without caring about Qi Xuan's life. Cole could be considered lucky to have escaped this calamity. Ah Gu, you went to visit me yesterday, right? Cole's eyes seemed to be able to automatically block out everyone else, and only look at Gu Mengmeng. His smile was deep and sickly, and his voice was filled with anticipation and carefully trying to please her. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath without anyone noticing, and nodded. Yeah, I was stopped. A smile bloomed on Cole's face, and he was overjoyed. I have already killed the person who stopped you. I skinned him to make a cloak for you. You can wear it this winter. I have already given the order that no matter when, as long as you want to see me, no one will dare to stop you. The one who stopped her was an orc, not a wild fox. Gu Mengmeng's stomach churned and she frowned unhappily. Don't you know I went to settle scores with you yesterday? I know. Cole was still smiling and answered matter-of-factly. If he didn't stop me, you might not be alive to talk to me today. But Cole was unconcerned. He just took a step forward and said, who knows? Maybe you couldn't do it when you saw how badly injured I was yesterday. He caused me to lose a chance to show weakness in front of you and gain your pity. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly in her heart. Cole really could not differentiate between friend and foe. She was a person who wished for nothing more than for him to die. She could dig a bloody hole in his chest without blinking an eye. Even a fool could tell that the person who stopped her yesterday was sincerely protecting Cole. Otherwise, who would dare to stop two beast kings? Tell me, why are you here today? Gu Mengmeng pointed at the ground full of wolf foxes' corpses and said, surely you didn't do this just to dirty my place. Chapter 1538. Gu Mengmeng looked down at the ground littered with wolf and fox corpses. She frowned at Cole and asked, this is the food you prepared for me? Cole nodded and smiled. His "you don't have to be so touched" expression made Gu Mengmeng's teeth itch. Don't you know that I don't eat snakes, wolves and foxes? Gu Mengmeng's face was filled with impatience and sarcasm. Cole seemed to be surprised. He looked at Leah with a questioning gaze. Leah nodded in reply. Cole looked at Gu Mengmeng with a look of realization and said, because of your partner's race, you will also be gentle towards wild beasts? But ah Gu, as the messenger of the beast deity, if you take the lead in not eating wolves and foxes, then others will not dare to offend you. This way, foxes and wolves will overpopulate and lack natural enemies. Maybe in the future when you walk outside the tribe, you will see wild wolves and foxes running everywhere. Gu Mengmeng choked and was a little speechless. So, Cole was saying that as the messenger of the beast deity, she would be a picky eater and disrupt the ecological balance of the entire beast world? Strangely, Gu Mengmeng thought of the Empress in the past television dramas. When the Emperor was eating, she said that he had eaten 3 mouthfuls and should stop eating. When the Emperor was drinking soup, she said that he had drunk too much and should stop drinking. The Emperor said, he, Empress, let's sleep. The Empress said, Your Majesty, you have to work hard and not be obsessed with women. If I were the Emperor, I would not like the Empress either. Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole like how the Emperor looked at the Empress. Standing on the side of justice, occupying the moral high ground and doing it for your own good, as a weapon to coerce all your actions. This Cole really treated himself as Gu Mengmeng's first partner. Did he think Elvis was dead? Gu Mengmeng snorted in disdain. She turned to look at Elvis and asked, Hubby, if I don't eat wolves and foxes, will the situation he mentioned really happen? No. Elvis answered calmly and said, if there are too many foxes, I will order the wild wolves to kill them. If there are too many wolves, I will order the wolf pack to digest internally. As for the snakes, they have lived in the Snake King Valley for thousands of years and have their own ecological cycle. They don't need outsiders to interfere. This outsider was naturally referring to Cole. Leah added, Elvis is right, after all, that Lord has already awakened, so the Snake clan will naturally be under his command. Even if he's not free, there's still Meng Meng, the Holy Virgin, to take care of him. How can it be someone else's turn to bark? She was scolding Cole for being a busybody. With a glance from Elvis, the wild wolves dragged all the corpses at the entrance of the stone castle away, clearing up the area. Although the corpse had been dragged away, the ground was still stained with blood. Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue and said with a displeased expression, I wanted to spend the winter in Sauter this year, but now it's a mess and there's the smell of blood everywhere, so annoying. I'm leaving, I'll be returning to Saint Nazaire this year to spend the winter. Ah, Gu. Cole did not expect Gu Mengmeng to be chased away by his ruckus, so he called out anxiously, I will help you clean up the place and make sure there is no smell of blood. This year, it was better to stay in Sauter for the winter. After all, there's an underground tunnel here and you can still play with Sandy during winter. You won't be too bored, right? Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole, as if she was thinking about something. Chapter 1539. I probably won't have time to play with Sandy this winter. Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Cole, then at Lee's face. She smiled shyly and said, I have the love of the sky and Leah has agreed to let me give birth to a nest of little foxes to play with. Cole's eyes reddened in an instant. He grabbed Gu Mengmeng's wrist and squeezed out a sentence through his teeth, if you want to give birth to foxes, I will give birth to them with you. You are not allowed to mate with others. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Cole, then looked at her wrist and chuckled, Cole, are you mistaken? You are not even my male, how can it be your turn to give birth to children with me? As long as you are willing, I will be your male. Cole looked at Gu Mengmeng with a ferocious stubbornness. Gu Mengmeng struggled to no avail but she was not angry. Instead, she smiled and asked Cole, you are a stray beast, how can you be my male? Even without the mating mark, I can still impregnate you. Maya and Miranda are the best proof. Cole defended himself because he felt that Gu Mengmeng's words had a hidden meaning, as if she was giving him a chance. Hence, he tried his best. He wanted this chance, a chance to stay by Gu Mengmeng's side. Ha! Gu Mengmeng sneered. Her clear eyes were filled with sarcasm and disgust. Don't you know that I have misophobia? Why would I want someone else's used second-hand goods? Is your brain filled with hyaluronic acid? Did you even flatten the lines in your brain? Cole did not let go and said, you know that the Snow Fox tribe has no concept of chastity. But if you mind, I promise I will never touch other females in the future. You are the only one, all right? Gu Mengmeng did not say a word and just gave Elvis a look. Elvis's fists were already clenched tightly. Receiving Gu Mengmeng's signal, he raised his sharp claws and slashed at Cole's wrist. Cole's hand was broken by Elvis before and he was traumatized by it. So when Elvis raised his claws, Cole immediately let go. Gu Mengmeng moved her wrist and chuckled, how much do you like me? It's just so, you let go when Elvis just moved his fingers. With that, Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck, hubby, let's go. Elvis's gaze was fixated on Gu Mengmeng's face, not even giving Cole a look of disdain. He kissed Gu Mengmeng's little nose dotingly and said, all right. Leo waved his tail and smiled elegantly when he passed Cole, Fox, King, Cole, and Cole, Fox, Ant. Leah. Fox and Leah, T, Cole, Leah, Leah, at, T, Leah, Wolf. So let's go back now, Elvis and I will go out and help you replenish some of your favorite fruits and vegetables. It won't be a problem to survive the cold. Goo of goo. Goo, and T, to, Cole of, goo, at, to say, and. Chapter 1540. Gu Mengmeng could not understand Cole anymore. She patted Elvis's shoulder, gesturing for him to put her down. Elvis did so. Gu Mengmeng took 2 steps towards Cole and tilted her head to look at him. Do you know what price you have to pay to obtain the spirit of the rocky cliffs? I do. Cole answered without hesitation. Seeing Gu Mengmeng take 2 steps towards him, he smiled warmly. If you know, you still. Cole took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Gu Mengmeng. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with a deep and resentful gaze. He smiled. Gregory also knows what price you have to pay to obtain the love of the sky. Didn't he still bring you up Moda Mountains? Do you think I am worse than him? Ah, Gu, let me tell you. My heart for you is firmer than anyone else. For you, I can do anything. Cole placed his hand over his heart. His lips curled into a devilish smile. Qi Xian was trained by me. Do you really think he can hide his little tricks from me? Using bewitchment in front of me is no different from showing off in front of an expert. But I still let him do as he pleases. Why do you think so? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. She pursed her lips and did not say a word. Jiaoyu was right about one thing. You should never try to understand a lunatic's thoughts. Because you could not understand his logic. In Gu Mengmeng's eyes, the Cole before her was a complete lunatic. Just his plan to occupy the earth was enough for him to be locked up in the Green Mountain Lunatic Asylum for the rest of his life. Because I need a reason to treat you well openly. I need a reason to tell the world that I love you. Cole looked up and laughed. It was filled with arrogance and sorrow. His voice was a little hoarse and full of vicissitudes. Everyone says that I betray the world, but when has the world ever treated me well? Ah Gu, you only know that I don't treat Leah well. But do you know why I hate him and schemed against him? Cole looked back. His gaze locked onto Gu Mengmeng's face. Because my mother has the same bloodline as Miranda. Mother gave birth to 9 children. Only one of each child survived, because the others were eaten by their fathers the moment they were born. Gu Mengmeng felt a chill in her heart and instinctively took a step back. And the reason why we are still alive is not because of the greatness of parental love or the remaining kinship and humanity. Cole took a step forward and closed in on Gu Mengmeng. He suddenly raised his hand and pointed accurately at Leah. We are alive to feed him. Leah nodded and said, let's eat him. What? Gu Mengmeng stared at Cole in disbelief. Accident? Cole smiled bitterly and shook his head. He pointed at Leah and slowly wrapped his arm around Gu Mengmeng's waist. Finally, he hugged her once, and she was so shocked that she forgot to struggle. Cole started to understand why Leah dared to reveal such a tragic and unbearable past in front of her. It was because only by tearing open his festering scars and letting her see his bloody scars, would he be able to obtain her gentleness. And the tiny Gu Mengmeng had infinite warmth. As long as he hugged her like this, the heart-wrenching pain would be alleviated. The pure and flawless son of the deity, shouldering the prosperity of the Snow Fox tribe. In order to obtain more power, my parents left the most outstanding one among the 9 brothers alive. Then, they personally skinned and broke their bones one by one to feed him. Aside from the topic, I said before, I want to kill Cole. And it was a soft knife cutting his flesh. The pain was endless and it was a killing that struck at his heart. Chapter 1541. Gu Mengmeng widened her eyes and suddenly turned to look at Leah. Lee's face was also as pale as a sheet. He took 2 steps back and shook his head with much difficulty, expressing his disbelief. Cole turned Gu Mengmeng's body and pressed her back tightly against his chest. With one arm around her waist and the other holding her chin, he forced her to look at Leah. He pressed his face against her ear and said seductively, like a snake demon bewitching Eve, word by word, otherwise, how do you think a 9th Highness who only knows how to research witch doctor spells and has no actual combat experience could rise to the 3rd level? Those brothers who suddenly disappeared, where did they go? Lee's face turned paler. When he was still the 9th Highness, he was the pride of the entire Snow Fox tribe. His meals were all taken care of by professionals, and the food was all processed and served to him. There was no skin, fur, or broken bones in the food. The raw blood was also sent up in stone bowls. As for those brothers, in the beast world, it was normal for males to die in battle, so he did not think much about the death of a brother every 1 or 2 years. But now that Cole mentioned it, he recalled the crucial period of his level up. It really matched the time when his brothers disappeared. Ugh! Leah suddenly turned around and vomited while leaning against the wall. Leah had said before that he was not a kind person. All his gentleness and kindness were only given to Gu Mengmeng alone. He killed people like flies and never showed mercy. He placed everyone on the chessboard and calculated every possible move without regret. When he was at his craziest, it was not like he had not eaten orcs before. But his own brothers, biological brothers, he was actually cut into pieces by his parents and brought to him. He didn't even know that he was eating his own brother's flesh and drinking his brother's blood as he studied the witch doctor's method of saving people. Leah vomited until his bile came out. His eyes were bloodshot from the pain. Gu Mengmeng's heart ached. She wanted to go to Li's side to comfort him but was held back tightly by Cole. He always thought that I treated him well in order to make him careless. But that wasn't the case. In the beginning, I only wanted to protect myself. I spared no effort to please him because I hoped that he would see me as more important, so that my parents wouldn't dare to do anything to me. I just want to live, even if I have to be a dog that wags its tail and begs for pity in front of him. Cole gritted his teeth and said word by word, I succeeded. Because of his reliance on me, I was able to escape death time and time again. In the end, even my eldest brother died. Gu Mengmeng's body stiffened. She turned her head with difficulty and looked at Cole in disbelief. Cole chuckled. The eldest son of the Snow Fox clan will be in charge of political power. However, in order to help him ascend from level 2 to level 3, the Void Mother did not hesitate to order her males to surround and kill Big Bro. Then, she delivered Big Bro's flesh to him and coaxed him into eating it. Then I would be the last of the 9 brothers, except for him. Tell me, in order for him to reach the peak of 3rd level and welcome the arrival of the messenger of the beast deity in the most perfect state, will the mother beast still be afraid of Li's concern for me? Chapter 1542. Let go of me. Gu Mengmeng turned to look at Cole coldly and said, I don't care how pitiful you are, that's your problem. As long as you hurt Leah, you are my enemy. Cole indeed let go and Gu Mengmeng immediately ran to Li's side and hugged him tightly in her arms. She patted his back and comforted him, it's not your fault, it's your parents who are perverted and used this method to force you, you didn't do anything wrong, you didn't. Moreover, it's all over, it's all in the past so it's alright. I'm here. No one can bully you like this in the future, really. Leah vomited until he almost collapsed. He held Gu Mengmeng's face with both his hands and asked with a meek gaze, Gu Mengmeng, what should I do? My bloodline is really unique, it can always slap me after I finally accept my filth and tell me that it's much dirtier than I thought. Gu Mengmeng, will you despise me? Elvis walked to Li's side and scooped Gu Mengmeng up into his arms. He then kicked Leah and said, don't embarrass yourself outside, hurry and get up. Leah looked at Elvis in a daze and after a long while, he suddenly laughed. From a certain perspective, he and Elvis were really birds of a feather flocking together. They had both eaten their own blood brothers. What kind of strange and miraculous fate was this? He understood Elvis's gaze. Elvis was telling him that Gu Mengmeng would not despise him because of what happened in the past. Wasn't Elvis himself the best example? Patting off the dirt on his body, Leah wiped away the tears at the corners of his eyes and sorted out his emotions. When he looked up again, he was that charming daddy Leah again. Swaying his large tail, Leah said in annoyance, I was still thinking of using this opportunity to make Gu Mengmeng soften her heart and favor me more. You actually saw through me, annoying. Leah was always good at pretending that everything was fine. The more upset he was, the more he would use this tone to mislead Gu Mengmeng into thinking that everything just now was a trick to fight for his favor. Initially, Gu Mengmeng believed him. But slowly, Gu Mengmeng started to realize something was wrong. But she would not expose Leah. She only wanted to know that Leah had already broken free from Cole's words. That would be enough. Cole stood nearby and laughed softly. He seemed to be laughing at Leah, but also at himself. After laughing for a long time, he took a deep breath and tilted his head to look at Gu Mengmeng. Ah Gu, look, we are the same kind of people. Gu Mengmeng smiled. Gu Mengmeng smiled coldly and said, I am different from you. Cole spread his hands and asked, No, Gu, we are the same. I cut myself open to let you see my misery and fragility, but you still disdained me and comforted him instead. This shows that your gentleness and compassion are only given to the people you care about. As for those you don't care about, you won't even spare a glance, regardless of whether they're dead or alive. Isn't this similar to me? Even if there were corpses floating in front of me and blood flowing like a river, I wouldn't even frown. But as long as you're unhappy, I'll go to war. So Gu, you don't have to reject me. We are the same kind. Only I have the right to accompany you. Only I can truly understand you. Cole appeared in front of Gu Mengmeng in a flash. He caressed Gu Mengmeng's little face with his large hands and said gently, "You're right. We are not in the wrong. The ones in the wrong are the weak who were trampled on. Be it me who was treated like a dog in the past, or Leah who was tortured by me. But it's different now. We are all strong enough and have completely changed our roles from the prey to the hunter. The rules are set by me, and I am yours." Digression. Knocking on the blackboard, she drew out the previous hints. Cole used to be the king behind the stray beasts. The idea of Peter torturing Elvis and his brothers was Cole's idea. The perverted idea of brothers killing each other and eating each other was Cole's instruction. The source of inspiration was his own personal experience. Chapter 1543. Cole's other hand slowly grasped Gu Mengmeng's wrist. With a seductive smile, he said, standing on the shoulders of the Beast King, "You are at the top of the food chain. Overlooking everything, you are the strongest and no one dares to go against you." Gu Mengmeng's eyes were wide open. But, before Cole could hold on to Gu Mengmeng's wrist firmly, it was grabbed by another hand. A cold voice rang in front of him, filled with disdain and sarcasm. It said a simple sentence, "Do you think I'm dead?" Crack. It was the sound of bones being crushed. The history department was shockingly similar. This hand had been crushed by Elvis for the second time. But this time, Cole's powers were much stronger than before. Hence, he turned his other hand into a claw and attacked Elvis. Elvis took a step back and loosened his grip. Cole flexed his dangling wrist and smiled. Gu, are you satisfied now?" Gu Mengmeng frowned, not understanding what he meant. "Didn't you say that I only like you so much that I can't even bear to part with a wrist? This time, this hand is crushed again. Although it won't break, it really hurts." Cole smiled as he showed off his broken hand. "You want the spirit of the rocky cliffs, don't you? If you want me to be devastated, you have to give me something sweet to make me more infatuated with you. I have already created a chance for you. Do you want to come over and comfort me, Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole coldly. Then, she slowly spat out 2 words. "No." With that, Gu Mengmeng let Elvis carry her away. Looking at Gu Mengmeng's resolute back view, Cole smiled indulgently and helplessly. He sighed. "TSK, you are indeed the woman that I, Cole, fancy. So ruthless and heartless." With that, Cole did not care about his pride. He leisurely followed Gu Mengmeng to the borders of Sandy's territory. He watched as she bid farewell to Sandy. Huda and his brothers in Oriton, who was severely injured by Cole, were entrusted to Sandy's family. Due to their relationship with Elvis, the 7 wolves naturally would not shirk away and promised to take good care of the males in the Wolf King's family. On the other hand, Arnold's identity was rather awkward. After all, it was his king who made the other party look half dead. Thus, he didn't say anything and just quietly stood at the side with his head lowered. No one knew what he was thinking. When Gu Mengmeng walked out of Sandy's house, she saw Cole still standing there, smiling without saying a word. He was calmly using his actions to show that no matter where Gu Mengmeng went to spend the winter, he would shamelessly follow her. Gu Mengmeng considered for a while and decided that returning to Saint Nazaire was not a wise choice. The reason was simple: Cole was a scourge and she had to deal with this scourge for a while. There were 16 valued females in Saint Nazaire and Guam Mengmeng did not want any of them to follow in Maya's footsteps. So, Gu Mengmeng's final decision was to go to the Snake King Valley. The Snake King Valley was Snake's base camp. The reputation that Snake had built up over thousands of years would not crumble overnight. Even though Ellie had conspired with Cole previously, it was with Snake's permission. Whales had been guarding the Snake King Valley with Wabi-Eye's identity for the past 800 years. Now that he had awakened and was a demigod above the Beast King, the snake beasts naturally had the support of the masses. If she wanted to find an absolutely clean place in the beast world where Cole could not even stab a needle, the Snake King Valley was definitely the best choice. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. I will continue tomorrow. These 2 days, I have been thinking of all kinds of perverted ways to kill Cole to appease everyone's anger. Chapter 1544. Whales had no objections to this. After all, the rule that outsiders were not allowed to enter the Snake King Valley was set by outsiders. When Snake was alive, he had never said that outsiders were not allowed to enter. It was just that those who entered might be treated as food. Returning to the Snake King Valley gave her a feeling that things were the same but people had changed. After Snake's death, Gu Mengmeng returned once, but only once. Elvis and Leah were waiting for her outside the valley that time and did not enter together. And this time, because of the troublemaker Cole, Elvis and Leah would definitely not let Gu Mengmeng and Cole be alone. Gu Mengmeng directly returned to the cave that Snake used to live in. Wabi-Eye had his own cave, and after awakening, Whale's temperament had taken over most of his personality. He preferred peace and quiet, so he did not stick around with Gu Mengmeng and the rest. He only told Gu Mengmeng to get the little snake to pass the message to him if she needed help. So Cole shamelessly stuck to Gu Mengmeng's cave. Both parties reached a strange tacit understanding. Cole clearly knew that Gu Mengmeng wanted the spirit of the rocky cliffs, but he still took the initiative to ask for a trick, to fall for it and to deceive her. Gu Mengmeng clearly knew that Cole knew that she wanted the spirit of the rocky cliffs, so she would definitely let him stay. But she still pretended to reject him and allowed him to stay in Snake's cave. It was a very strange feeling. It was hard to tell who was acting with whom. Snakes hibernated collectively during winter, so there was no need to prepare food. But Gu Mengmeng did not hibernate during winter. Moreover, she was the saintess of the Snake King Valley and had Snake's protection mark on the back of her neck. Her status was special and precious, so she naturally had to be taken good care of. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng had Snake's tear of the beast deity on her, so her body was immune to all poisons. So it was much easier for the snake beasts to prepare food for her. Prey with 2 holes in their main arteries were continuously transported into Snake's cave. And Elvis, who usually went out to hunt every year, did not go out this year because of Cole's presence. Instead, he handed the task of hunting to the wild wolves. Cole said that he wanted to stay and spend the winter together, but there was no reason for a male to let a female take care of him. So he ordered the wild foxes to hunt on a large scale and send food over. So there were 3 portions of food stacked separately in Snake's cave. One was prepared by the snake beast for Gu Mengmeng. Because it was poisonous, only Gu Mengmeng could eat it. The other 2 piles were for wolf beasts and fox beasts. Luckily Snake's cave was spacious enough, otherwise with all these things piled up, no one would be able to enter. Leah looked at the 3 small hills of corpses in the cave and shook his head silently. Speechless, he sighed and began to clean them up one by one. He peeled off the beast hides and tanned them into fur, then marinated the meat and stored them separately. Gu Mengmeng, on the other hand, flapped her wings and flew up to a tree branch. She sat on a high spot and swung her legs, humming Guojing singing in the tree. Elvis automatically went to help Leah handle the prey. Cole hesitated for a moment before joining in. These 3 males, who were like fire and water and had always fought each other to the death, were actually preparing food for the winter in harmony. This scene was really strange. But it was also thanks to them that they did not cause any trouble. When the first snow fell, Snake's cave was already stocked with enough food. Chapter 1545. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her hands and shrugged her shoulders, grinning. It's a pity there's no more wine, or else I would have gotten you both drunk today. Elvis and Leah looked at each other and smiled. Ever since they got drunk together that year, and Gu Mengmeng took the opportunity to satisfy her fujoshi heart. The two of them had never drunk together again. Between the two of them, one of them had to remain sober, so that Gu Mengmeng's imagination would not run wild again. Gu Mengmeng eagerly filled 3 cups with water and passed one to Elvis and Leah. Then, she took one for herself and clinked it with the two of them. She smiled sweetly. "Hubby, husband, happy wedding anniversary. There's no wine, so let's use water to replace wine. Cheers, shall we? Happy wedding anniversary. Happy wedding anniversary." Elvis and Leah said in unison, smiling gently and blissfully. There was no calendar in the beast world, so they treated the first day of winter as their wedding anniversary. The 3 of them were blissfully happy and warm, while Cole, who was sitting at the side, was isolated outside. Snake's cave did not have any cover. After all, before Gu Mengmeng came, Snake was the only one living here. Even though they were in the same space, he could not blend in with them. Cole clutched his heart with his hand and smiled bitterly. He knew that sticking close to her was asking for trouble, but he was already feeling so uncomfortable at the beginning. He really did not know how he was going to survive this long winter. Gu Mengmeng did not have time to care about Cole. She just ate with Elvis and Leah while recalling the interesting things that happened in the past few years. Sometimes, she would grumble coquettishly, and sometimes, she would laugh out loud. Cole could not take his eyes off her. He just waited with his eyes fixed on her, thinking that she might mention him in one of her sentences. Even if it was hatred? Unfortunately, there was not a single word. After a day of fooling around, Gu Mengmeng was so sleepy that she fell into a deep sleep in Elvis's arms. Carry her into sleep. Mengmeng doesn't like others to see her sleeping, Leah said to Elvis while clearing the cutlery. Elvis nodded and carried Gu Mengmeng into a cave that they had dug out temporarily before winter. It could be considered as a separate room for the 3 of them to rest in this winter. Cole was allowed to stay in the cave, but he was not allowed to go near this room. He was clear of his own identity and his own motive, so he would not touch Gu Mengmeng's bottom line. And so, he just stayed in the corner and stared longingly at the entrance of the cave, as if he could see the person sleeping soundly through the wall. After Leah finished packing, he did not enter the cave. Instead, he sat beside Cole. Without looking at Cole, he just sat side by side with him and said nonchalantly, "What you said to Mengmeng that day, was it a lie, wasn't it?" Chapter 1546. Cole nodded with a chilly smile. "So you intend to complain to Gu about this? Expose me for hiding my ambition and disguising myself as a pitiful person to gain sympathy?" Leah shook his head. "If I wanted to expose you, I would have done it long ago. Why wait till now?" "Oh. Then what is your motive for telling me all this?" Cole asked softly. Leah said, "I'm just reminding you, it's useless to act pitiful. 5 years ago, I made myself even more pathetic than you, but I still couldn't move her to forgive me in one winter. At the very least, she still liked me back then. But you? I'd like to hear more." Cole was a bad guy, but he was a smart one. Leah pointed out the loophole in his first step to express his sincerity. Gu Mengmeng wanted the spirit of the rocky cliffs and Leah would definitely help her. So this winter, he would let go of the past and make Cole fall madly in love with Gu Mengmeng. The first step was to not destroy Cole's facade in front of Gu Mengmeng. Only when Gu Mengmeng felt that Cole was pitiful would her heart soften a little towards him. And this little soften was enough to make Cole go crazy. Conspiring with the enemy to drive himself crazy. Cole felt that there was probably no other person in this world who would do this. Leah smiled lightly. Then, he patted Cole's shoulder. "There will be a good opportunity within 3 days. As for how to grasp it, it's up to you." With that, Leah stood up and returned to his room. A good opportunity within 3 days. Cole's confusion only lasted until the next morning when Gu Mengmeng woke up. Moaning, she stretched her body and flipped over to see Leah smiling at her from the bedside with his chin propped on his hand. "Good morning, hubby." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her eyes and greeted him softly. Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's soft little face that had just woken up and smiled gently. "Are you awake?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and leaned into Lee's arms coquettishly. She found a comfortable spot on his chest and said lazily with the coquettishness of the morning, "I'm awake, but I still want to stay a little longer." Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng back and kissed her forehead, saying, "You might still have to stay for a long while." Gu Mengmeng did not understand. She looked up and pressed her lips against Lee's lowered head. She thought it was just an accidental kiss, but Leah deepened it. After a while, the entire room was filled with the fox's seductive fragrance. "Leah, so early in the morning, males have a specific physiological reaction in the morning. You understand, right?" As Leah spoke, he flipped over and pinned Gu Mengmeng under him. He kissed her from her forehead all the way down to her neck. "Didn't you want a nest of little foxes? Now, as you wish." No, that's not good." Gu Mengmeng's emotions were in a mess from Lee's kiss and she did not know what to do. Before the drowsiness had completely dissipated, her mind was occupied by ambiguity. Her whole body was in a state of chaos, but her body gave a more direct response than her mind. Winter is the most leisurely time of the year. Now that you're pregnant, Elvis and I can take care of you wholeheartedly. There's no better time than now. Lee's large hand moved down Gu Mengmeng's arm and interlocked his fingers with hers, pressing her hands to the sides of her body. Then, he leaned close to her left ear and whispered softly, "Moreover, you're so beautiful. I can't hold it in anymore. Aside from the topic, hurry, there's no more time, hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate, 4927792773. After boarding the train, look for the administrator to check the tickets. Babies with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin to enjoy the special treatment of overflowing meat fragrance. Note, this train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. This train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten." Chapter 1547. The males in the beast world had sharp hearing. This was originally an advantage, but now, it had become a torture. Whatever Leah and Gu Mengmeng did and said in the cave, the two males at the door could hear it clearly. The fox's seductive fragrance that permeated the air also stimulated the two males who had an especially sensitive sense of smell. Cole's eyes reddened and he wanted to rush into the cave. How could Elvis let him enter? So, the two beast kings started fighting in the empty space of Snake's cave. The sounds in the cave got louder and louder, and the fight outside the cave became fiercer and fiercer. When the last chant was heard from inside, Elvis's sharp claws dug into Cole's chest. Both of them were stunned, but Elvis did not take the chance to kill Cole. After all, Gu Mengmeng did not ask Cole to come along to kill him. Or rather, not to kill him at this moment. As expected, Gu Mengmeng fell into a deep sleep after the fight. When she opened her eyes again, the cave was filled with the aroma of meat. She could hear Elvis's steady and clear breathing and heartbeat, as well as the sound of Lee's chopsticks rubbing against the sides of the pot as he stirred the food. These small details pieced together to form a blissful scene. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and hugged Elvis, calling out sweetly, "Hubby." Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face, then said in a low voice, "You slept for the whole day?" "Yeah." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "I'm hungry." Leah was right, you will definitely wake up when you smell the aroma of food. As he spoke, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng up and used the warm water he had prepared to help her wash up. As he washed her face, he remained silent for a moment before saying out of the blue, "I'm sorry." Gu Mengmeng's eyes were wide open. "Ah." Gu Mengmeng held on to Elvis's big hands like a kitten, her little face peeking out from the beast's skin and looking at Elvis curiously. Elvis's gaze was a little disappointed and he said, "In the future, I will work harder to serve you." Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and thought for a moment before her face turned red. The service Elvis was referring to was definitely not something like washing her face and brushing her teeth, but, cough, cough, cough. Gu Mengmeng choked on her own saliva. How should she put it? She was a little timid. After all, she had just been tormented by Leah yesterday. If Elvis were to do it again, she felt that she might die on the bed because she was a beautiful woman. Elvis patted Gu Mengmeng's back lightly and said, "This time, you slept for a whole day, but the previous time, you only slept for one night. From this, it can be seen that you were not satisfied the previous time. It's my fault, I won't do it again." Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. So Elvis judged her satisfaction level based on how long she slept after that. Chapter 1548. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng's timid look and felt warm and itchy in his heart. Undeniably, her almost begging attitude had pleased him. After all, males had the strongest desire to conquer in that matter and would not be willing to be outdone by anyone. And it was a delightful thing to receive the approval of one's own female. "Ah, so the one who should be working harder is me?" Leah leaned against the entrance of the cave and looked at Gu Mengmeng meaningfully with a faint smile. Gu Mengmeng choked and shook her head violently. She instinctively held onto her waist and said, "There's really no need. Both of you better slack off a little, or else I'm really afraid that one day I will be torn apart on the bed by both of you and won't be able to wake up." Leah and Elvis looked at each other and smiled. They did not say anything else and just called Gu Mengmeng out to eat. After Elvis helped Gu Mengmeng wash up, he used a piece of beast skin to wrap her up before carrying her out of the cave. Gu Mengmeng felt very awkward the moment she came out. She was so confused by Lee's teasing yesterday that she had forgotten that there was an outsider staying in her house. So Cole had been listening to live AVI for an entire day at the cave entrance yesterday? As a performer, Gu Mengmeng really wanted to bang her head against Lee's chest and die. "Ah, Gu." Cole's voice sounded a little weak and tired. The corners of his lips were heavy, but he forced a smile and said, "You don't dare to look at me. Is it because your heart aches?" Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly and said, "No, it's because it's awkward." "Why is it awkward?" "Because I heard you mating with Leah." Cole's every word was light as a feather, as if that was the only way he would not shatter his overburdened heart. He smiled bitterly and said, Actually you don't have to be like this. Anyway, it's not the first time I heard it, what?" Gu Mengmeng looked up at Cole. He was clearly someone she hated to the extreme, but when she met his eyes, Gu Mengmeng's heart skipped a beat. She did not know if it was because she had heard his story and knew that he had no choice but to do what he did to Leah back then, so the basis of her hatred had loosened. She did not even find Cole as hateful as before. Cole could clearly see the gentleness in Gu Mengmeng's gaze when she lifted her head. Hence, he tried his best to smile, as if he wanted to hide all his dark side behind this smile, and present the little bit of beauty and sunshine he had left to her. Even though his throat was boiling with blood, Cole still tried his best to maintain his elegance. He said calmly, "Previously in Solder, when you and Elvis were mating, I was near the stone castle, and heard everything. That was the first time, so I lost control and seriously injured your little tiger." Little tiger. If Gu Mengmeng did not know how Oriton, that glutton, usually had a poker face and was cold to everyone except when he was eating, she might have been fooled by the 3 words little tiger and thought that he was some cute little pet that Gu Mengmeng was raising. Holding her forehead, Gu Mengmeng suddenly realized that her focus was not quite right. Twitching her lips, Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, "Are you addicted to eavesdropping?" Chapter 1549. Gu Mengmeng felt even more awkward. She cleared her throat and said, "Then, why don't you take advantage of the fact that winter has just arrived and go live in another cave? Or, can't your snow fox tribe travel during winter? You can go back to Solder or anywhere else." Cole snorted. His eyes were filled with sorrow. He did not answer but asked instead, "Ah Gu, looks like you really hate me. You don't even share your soft-heartedness and kindness with me. Hearing the female I love the most mating with another male has already broken my heart and made me go crazy. I thought this was the most painful situation I had ever been in. But I didn't expect you to chase me away when I am in such pain. Ah Gu, it's a world of ice and snow outside. Even if I can find a cave to rest in, how am I going to get food? I can't survive the winter. Even if you don't care about my life, you have to think about Qi Xian. If I die, what will happen to him? Moreover, don't you want the spirit of the rocky cliffs? Gu Mengmeng did not think too much. She just felt that letting Cole stay in her cave to survive the winter was a very thoughtless thing to do. She could not possibly not mate with Elvis and Leah this winter. Especially since she still wanted to bear Lee's child. How could she not do that? But every time they did it, it was like a live broadcast with an outsider eavesdropping. It was so awkward, so Gu Mengmeng asked Cole to leave. But she did not have the intention to kill him. In the end, this difficult situation became like this. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, I have always been such a vicious woman. If I were you, I would run away as soon as possible and hide far away. Never appear in front of a vicious woman like me. I will not chase after you to the ends of the world for Qishuan's life. As for the spirit of the rocky cliffs, it doesn't matter if it doesn't appear. Anyway, that broken door cannot be opened and everyone can relax. Cole looked at Gu Mengmeng's angry words in silence. He chuckled and said, I can understand it as you are concerned and can't bear for me to die. In order to save my life, you are willing to let down Whale's request and make him wait for 1,000 years in vain? You don't care if that bird man on the Moda Mountains becomes a living dead forever? Thinking of little shit and Gregory, Gu Mengmeng felt her chest tighten. She glared at Cole unhappily and said, You are a scourge. It's all your fault for causing this situation today. Cole chuckled with a blissful expression. Yes, Gu is right. It's all my fault. I planned all of this just to get a chance for you to allow me to fall in love with you. Only with permission would you pity my misery. I know you won't love me, but I want you to remember me, always remember me. Gu Mengmeng did not say a word. She just turned around and entered the house in frustration. Leah brought the pot back to the room and coaxed Gu Mengmeng to eat. Gu Mengmeng was frustrated by Cole and did not feel like eating. But Leah gently caressed her tummy and said, Maybe there's already a little fox here. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for the child. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and hesitated for a moment before saying, It can't be that fast, right? You hit it on the first try? Chapter 1550. When Leah said that, Gu Mengmeng also felt that it was the case. Instinctively, she placed her hand on her abdomen, feeling a little hesitant and curious. If she was pregnant, she should have felt it, right? Gu Mengmeng thought about it. When she was pregnant with Hada and his brothers, she did not have any reaction at first. It was only after Leah sensed that there was something wrong with the smell on her body that he started to have a reaction. What about this time? Would it be the same? Gu Mengmeng felt that Lee's words made sense. If there was really a baby in her stomach, she must take good care of herself. Because of this possibility, Gu Mengmeng's mood instantly improved. Her emotions that were disturbed by Cole just now had also flown out of the 9 heavens. She just rubbed her tummy from time to time, then accepted the food that Leah fed her by mouthful like an old lady, delightedly thinking about how many little foxes would be born in this litter. Sons or daughters? What should she call them? After the meal, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng to accompany her to digest the food, while Leah went to wash the dishes. Gu Mengmeng then realized that Elvis had injuries on his body. Frowning, she asked, What happened? Elvis looked down at his almost healed body, leaving only a faint pink mark. He said, It's all right, I'm almost healed. And his injuries are more serious than mine. Him? Gu Mengmeng only took 2 seconds to understand who him was. Elvis was not injured before entering the cave, and he did not fight with anyone when she was awake. So it could only be the day she and Leah mated. She was in a daze then, but now that she recalled it, she did hear the sounds of fighting. Gu Mengmeng rolled up her sleeves and jumped up from the bed, stomping out in a huff. Cole's gaze was fixed on the entrance of Gu Mengmeng's cave, so he naturally saw her walk out and heard their conversation inside. He knew that Gu Mengmeng was here to settle the score with him, so he did not avoid or hide. He just sat there quietly and looked at Gu Mengmeng, as if he was anticipating her to take revenge on him. Gu Mengmeng walked up to Cole angrily and strangled his neck. She sneered, "Staying in my cave and even hitting my man, are you tired of living?" With that, Gu Mengmeng threw a punch at Cole. Cole flew out and landed heavily on the wall of the cave, before landing on the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Pfft! Spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, Cole clutched his chest as he sprawled on the ground. He turned to look at Gu Mengmeng and smiled. The fresh red blood formed a stark contrast with his pale face. He was clearly in a miserable state, but he still had to put on a smiling face. He did not say anything and just looked at Gu Mengmeng. The rage in Gu Mengmeng's heart was extinguished by Cole's mouthful of blood. She clenched her fists tightly and stood at the same spot, not chasing after him to hit him again. He only asked fiercely, "Why didn't you fight back? Aren't you good at fighting? Don't tell me you don't hit women. I saw that you didn't hold back when you hit Maya and Miranda." Cole shook his head. "It's not that I don't hit women. I just don't hit you." Chapter 1551. "I know you are not weak, but I just can't bear to lay a hand on you." Cole gave a helpless and bitter smile. He shook his head in self-mockery and said, "Think about it yourself. In those moments when you hated me, did I ever hurt you at all?" Indeed, no matter how many things Cole had done to make Gu Mengmeng gnash her teeth in hatred, he had never laid a finger on her. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists and growled coldly. "You hurt the people I care about, so why don't you just hit me?" Cole coughed again. Every time he coughed, fresh blood would spurt out. After finally stopping the bleeding, Cole used the back of his hand to wipe his mouth. Then, he looked up at Gu Mengmeng with a smile. "We are really similar, protecting the people we care about and ignoring the people we don't care about. The only difference is that you care about Elvis, Leah, Qixuan and Sandy. You care about everyone except me. And I, from start to finish, only care about you. But Gu, in my eyes and in your eyes, what is the difference between the people you care about?" Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists. She had nothing to say. Cole had first been beaten up by whales because of Oriton. Even if he had the power of a beast king, it was not something that could be healed in a short period of time after every bone in his body was crushed by a demigod. But he had ignored his recovery and traveled such a long distance to the Snake King Valley, just to fall in love with her and give her the spirit of the rocky cliffs. Although they were both beast kings, foxes were naturally weaker than wolves. In addition, Cole had not recovered from his serious injuries, so Elvis definitely had the upper hand in their battle yesterday. Even if Gu Mengmeng had the slightest bit of rationality, she could easily see that the huge hole in his chest had not completely healed. Compared to the faint pink marks on Elvis's body, Cole's injuries were obviously more serious. But she only cared about Elvis, so she attacked Cole without a care, hitting him until he vomited blood and fell to the ground. Cole was right. In this aspect, she was really the same as him. She only cared about the people she cared about and never cared about the lives of others. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips, her eyes bloodshot. She did not know if it was because Cole had exposed the truth or because of the blood he had vomited. After enduring for a long time, she only said fiercely, "But at least I did not kill you." "You will kill him, won't you?" Cole replied calmly, smiling so gently, as though he was saying, "Winter will pass, the flowers you love will bloom, the fruits you love will bear." Gu Mengmeng's brows were tightly furrowed and her fists were clenched by her sides. She clenched her teeth and held on for a long while before slowly loosening her fists. She said, "Yes, I will kill you eventually. Once I undo Qixuan's bewitching spell, I will definitely kill you." "But Cole, you are different from Oakley, you are not innocent." Cole chuckled. "If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Sorry, there are too many things that made you hate me, so I didn't think about it. But Gu, you care about so many people, why did I only kill the insignificant Oakley? If he wants to torture you, he, Qi Xian or Sandy are all good choices, isn't it? Chapter 1552. If he had obediently helped you guard Sauter, would not have killed him no matter how he went against me. Look at Qi Xian, he is the best example. No matter how impudent that little wolf cub was in front of me, I still spared his life, didn't I? Only you foolishly thought that I kept him alive to threaten you. Ah Gu, don't you know? You are full of weaknesses, it is too easy for me to threaten you. I don't have to restrict myself to Qi Xian, even if he dies, there is still Heda, Jiaoyu, and Kanwu. You will not give up on any of them, right? Cole shakily propped himself up and leaned against the wall to sit. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng with a smile on his face. He took a deep breath and pursed his lips, forcing himself to swallow back the blood that was surging up his throat. He frowned slightly and his forehead was covered in sweat, but the corners of his lips were still curled upwards. He had to smile, he had to smile. He was already so unbearable in her eyes, the only thing he had left was this smile. You treat Oakley as a friend, but what about him? He didn't hesitate to push you into the eye of the storm for his own purpose. I can't let someone who would stab you in the back stay by your side. So, even if you hate me because of this, I can't let him stay. Cole propped himself against the wall and slowly stood up from the ground. The dignified Beast King, Lord Cole, was now in a pathetic and weak state. He could only stand up from the ground, if not for the support of the wall, he wouldn't be able to do it. He coughed twice and blood flowed uncontrollably from the corner of his tightly shut mouth. He tilted his head slightly and secretly wiped away the blood. Then, he turned to look at Gu Mengmeng and continued, Ah Gu, I told you before, you and I are the same kind of person. I will never allow anyone who threatens the people we care about to exist. That year when you killed Nina, wasn't it because of this? Nina, this was a name that had not appeared for a long time. Back then, no matter how she provoked and how she jumped out, Gu Mengmeng tolerated it all. Until later, when she injured Sandy. Although Gu Mengmeng did not personally kill her, she had instructed Leah to do it. Nina and the 46 males in her family had all died because of a single sentence from her. She would not allow Nina, who would plot against Sandy, to exist. Cole would also not allow Oakley, who would betray her, to exist. Gu Mengmeng staggered a step back and her gaze dimmed. So she and Cole were the same kind of people? Cole stood firmly and looked at Gu Mengmeng with a determined gaze. Ah Gu, I don't deny that I killed Oakley. If you want to avenge him, my life is right here for you to take. But let me tell you, if I could do it all over again, would still kill him without hesitation, without mercy, and without regret. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists and flung them away, leaving behind only one sentence, there's no next time. Cole did not promise that he would not lay his hands on the people Gu Mengmeng cared about in the future, because he had to stick to his bottom line of not lying to her. If the people around her betrayed her again in the future, no matter if it was Elvis, Leah, or Sandy or the 4 little ones, if anyone dared to hurt her, he would use any means necessary to get rid of them. With one hand on the wall and the other on his chest, Cole looked at Gu Mengmeng's resolute back view. Ah Gu, we did not do anything wrong. We were just protecting the people we care about. If you don't look out for yourself, heaven and earth will destroy you. In this cruel world, if you're not the hunter, you're the prey. It's just survival of the fittest. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. Besides, where are the people who wanted me to torture Cole to death? Why are there so many people asking me to show mercy now? Chapter 1553. About 3 weeks passed in the blink of an eye. Gu Mengmeng was unwilling to face Cole, so she hid in the cave and rarely went out. Leah was the one who prepared the food and brought it in, so she was unwilling to step out of the door. 3 weeks later, Leah confirmed that Gu Mengmeng was pregnant. Usually, foxes would be pregnant for about 50 days, and 3 weeks meant half of the gestation period was over. But Gu Mengmeng's tummy was ridiculously flat. Leah frowned and stared at Gu Mengmeng for a long time, before looking up blankly and saying slowly, maybe, it's a daughter. Gu Mengmeng was also stunned for a moment. The chances of getting pregnant with a female in the beast world was very low, so Gu Mengmeng and Leah had always thought that this child would be a son, and had thought of 4 to 5 names. Suddenly realizing that it was a daughter, the whole family was dumbfounded. Really? Gu Mengmeng held Lee's hand carefully to confirm. Leah transformed into his beast form again and laid between Gu Mengmeng's legs to sniff carefully, before transforming into a human and nodding, I'm sure that I'm pregnant. Counting the days, if it's a son, the tummy would have been big long ago. Ah. Gu Mengmeng screamed in joy, hugging Leah excitedly, Leah, we have a daughter, we have a daughter. Leah was also dizzy from joy, his entire body was numb, and the phrase, we have a daughter, kept repeating endlessly in his mind. After a long time, he finally laughed out, hugging Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, crying tears of joy, I finally have a family related by blood, finally. Gu Mengmeng, thank you. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's face and kissed him, saying, silly, other than this child, you still have me and Elvis, we are all your family. Yeah. Leah nodded heavily, hugging Gu Mengmeng back tightly in his arms. Gu Mengmeng's pregnancy had washed away all other matters, including the conflict with Cole previously. Now that she was pregnant, Gu Mengmeng could not stay in the cave all day, she needed to move around as much as possible. It was impossible to leave the cave, but luckily, because Snake's original body was too big, this cave had an area of at least 300 square meters. It was barely enough for digesting food and taking a stroll. Gu Mengmeng felt a little uneasy after not leaving the room for 3 weeks. For some unknown reason, Gu Mengmeng felt that she could not face Cole. In the past, she hated him because he had schemed against Leah. But later on, she realized, he was just protecting himself. Later on, she hated him because he kidnapped Qi Xian and killed Oakley. But later on, she found out that he kidnapped Qi Xian so that he would have a reason to see her more often. Even though he killed Oakley, it was also to protect her. Didn't she kill Nina to protect Sandy? She had done the same thing, so what right did she have to criticize Cole? The last time Cole fought with Elvis, it seemed like Cole's injuries were also more serious. In the end, he went out and punched Elvis until he vomited blood. Now that she thought about it, why did it seem like she was in the wrong? She hesitated and could not take a step forward. She stared at that one step but could not take it. A shadow fell from the top of her head. Gu Mengmeng instinctively looked up and met Cole's eyes. Chapter 1554. There's no need, Leah will help me. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, avoiding Cole's gaze. Cole chuckled and resisted the urge to lift her chin to look at him. You are pregnant and a female. It's better to have a witch doctor by your side. It's so cold outside. Won't your heart ache if he goes? Let me go. If you don't see me, will you feel better? Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and kept quiet. Would she feel better if she didn't see Cole? Probably, after all, she felt extremely pressured just by seeing him for no reason. Moreover, if she really asked Leah to pluck some fruits for her in the snow, her heart would definitely ache. She would rather not eat it than let Leah take such a risk. Cole raised his hand, wanting to touch Gu Mengmeng's head. Seeing her instinctively step back and shrink her neck to avoid him, his hand froze in midair. After hesitating for a moment, he slowly lowered it. I'm leaving. Take care. With that, Cole took 2 steps back and turned to walk towards the entrance of the cave. A gust of cold wind blew over. Gu Mengmeng shivered and nestled into Elvis's arms. Leah started a fire and boiled some water for Gu Mengmeng to maintain the moisture in the cave and prevent her from having a nosebleed again. Without Cole in the cave, Gu Mengmeng felt much more comfortable and at ease. It was as if she had returned to the days in St. Nazaire. Every day, Elvis and Leah would take care of her as if she was a queen. Even though she was not even a month pregnant, the 2 of them would take turns to lie on her tummy and listen to her every day. Sometimes, her small intestines would move and make a gurgling sound. These two fools would insist that it was the baby moving and were as excited as two silly dogs. Such days were leisurely. In the blink of an eye, another half a month had passed. Gu Mengmeng's tummy grew bigger day by day. Now, it was as big as her chest. She stood up like a beta. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her tummy and looked at Leah from time to time. She asked, "It's only been slightly more than a month. My tummy is growing a little too fast?" Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little tummy and smiled. "You've been eating more and moving less recently. It's probably not all because of your daughter. Maybe it's because you're growing fat on your waist." Leah. Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth and glared at Leah fiercely. The hairs on Lee's back stood up as he instantly recalled the first year Gu Mengmeng came. Elvis had said that Gu Mengmeng seemed to have put on some weight and ended up being chased by Gu Mengmeng with a bone stick as big as a sweet potato. Leah was not afraid of being smashed, mainly because Gu Mengmeng's current body was not suitable for chasing and battling. Hence, he immediately admitted defeat and took the initiative to transform into a beast and send it to Gu Mengmeng's hand. He even pretended to smile subconsciously and said, "All right Mengmeng, don't be angry." In the beast world, saying a female is a little fat is a compliment, really. I know my mistake, I really know my mistake, my Mengmeng is not fat at all, not fat not fat. His face was as red as an apple in anger as Gu Mengmeng was holding on to his ear. Leah kept begging for mercy but did not dare to struggle, fearing that he would hurt Gu Mengmeng. Just as they were fooling around, a wave of coldness swept over. Gu Mengmeng instinctively looked towards the entrance of the cave and saw Cole, who had just returned covered in frost. Chapter 1555. Leah had just taken the beast skin bag from Cole's hands when Cole fell stiffly to one side, landing on the ground with a loud thud. He was obviously frozen stiff. Gu Mengmeng's heart was tugged at by Cole's fall. She did not know if it was because she knew about his past, but Gu Mengmeng's hostility towards Cole had lessened by a lot. Especially when he went out this time to not be an eyesore to make her feel better, and even braved the wind and snow to pluck fruits for her. No matter how cold-hearted she was, Gu Mengmeng still felt a little guilty. Gu Mengmeng wanted to help Cole up, but was stopped by Elvis and Leah. "The cold air on his body is too strong, it will be troublesome to pass it to you." Leah handed the Schweling fruits to Elvis, then walked up to carry Cole and placed him at a spot slightly further away from the fire. People with frostbite should not immediately go to the fire, it would make their injuries worse. Elvis took out a beast skin cushion and placed it by the fire, letting Gu Mengmeng sit there comfortably. Leah took care of Cole, while Elvis went to wash the Schweling fruits for Gu Mengmeng to eat. Gu Mengmeng held a small bowl, staring at the bowl full of Schweling fruits in a daze, but did not eat a single one. Elvis used his chest to support Gu Mengmeng's waist, wrapping an arm around her shoulder and gently squeezing her little hand, asking, "Why aren't you eating? Don't you love eating this fruit the most? I remember when you were pregnant with Huda and the rest, you could eat 3 big bowls of this at once." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "There are many Schweling fruits on the Moda Mountains, Gregory would pluck them for me to eat every day. But he said I could only eat 10 at most at once, or else it would be too cold and my stomach would feel uncomfortable." Elvis was taken aback for a moment, then took the bowl from Gu Mengmeng's hands. He forced a smile and said calmly, "It is not easy to be principled towards your own female. Gregory is a good man. When he comes back, you can take him in, Leah and I have no objections." Leah tilted his head and looked at Elvis, saying, "Who says I have no objections? I have objections. If you want to be promoted, you have to defeat me first." Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah, who was trying to protect his food, and could not help but laugh. Gregory, a 3rd-level beast, wanted to fight Leah, a 5th level? Elvis looked at Leah plainly and said, "Xiao Meng feels guilty towards him regarding the love of the sky. Moreover, he has sacrificed so much for Xiao Meng, we have no right to reject him." Leah snorted nonchalantly and said, "It was all thanks to him that Meng Meng could obtain the love of the sky, but who begged him to do so? Since it was voluntary, there was no need to say that anyone owed him anything. Furthermore, there were many ways to thank him, but he could not use Meng Meng as a reward. If this precedent is set, in the future, everyone will come to sacrifice their lives for Meng Meng. Are we going to accept all of them? When Leah said this, he glanced at Cole. His meaning was obvious. With Cole's methods, if Gu Meng Meng were to set a precedent for Gregory, he would be able to do even more cruel things to force Gu Meng Meng to accept him. Elvis frowned and remained silent for a moment. They are different. Back then, Gregory was tricked by you. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.